Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com and we'll take a look at them after round 1. Today we're going to be playing with Christopher's Azorious Kitten deck list, the namesake card being Displacer Kitten, despite the fact that it's a one of. More generally, it's probably correct to think of this as a Hullbreacher or Narset deck, with Days Undoing being the primary finisher. Our goal here is to have one of these two effects in play, and they both more or less work the same way with Days Undoing. The idea is to turn Days Undoing into a one-sided draw 7 that will hopefully win us the game. Now, I say hopefully because in my experience, a lot of times successfully executing this combo doesn't actually lead to a kill. And this is especially true in the mono blue versions of these deck lists, which are very, very light as far as actual win conditions go. And while we're not exactly mono blue, we're pretty close. We have Monastery Mentor as one of our primary finishers, as well as Teferi, which is our generic answer to stuff that Legacy might have to offer. If you're in white, you probably need something like a Prismatic Ending, a Council's Judgment, a Teferi, just as a catch-all to just make sure that you can answer whatever thing your opponent might floop into play that's going to beat you. So, I don't know that I've ever actually played Displacer Kitten Combo on my channel before, or if I have, I've maybe only done it once. So, this thing is one of the D&D cards, and it has Avoidance. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, exile up to one target non-land permanent you control, and then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So imagine that you cast some 0-mana card, like let's say, a Lotus Petal. You can then blink a Planeswalker. Well, let's imagine this scenario with Teferi specifically. So let's say you, like, minus Teferi, you bounce something, you draw a card. You play a Lotus Petal, it triggers the avoidance of Displacer Kitten, and you blink the Teferi. You can now bounce that Lotus Petal back to your hand, drawing a card, and returning to the original game state. So using this process, you are able to draw your entire deck, and if you draw your entire deck, it should be pretty trivial to win. You can make, effectively infinite monk tokens and kill in the next combat. Although it doesn't look like there's a way to actually factually win the game on that turn, it looks like you're pretty much always in past the turn territory. I have only changed one card from Christopher's main deck. There was 3 Ottawaras, but as a legendary land, that made me a little bit nervous. I put it up to a 3rd Tundra instead of a 3rd Ottawara. It gives us one more fetchable, which kind of felt important. As far as the sideboard goes, we're not a control deck, and I want to emphasize that from the beginning. There's no Swords to Plowshares in this main deck. There's no Prismatic Ending in this main deck. We are a combo deck. So the initiative is the talk of town right now, and if I were playing a blue control deck, I would want things like Supreme Verdict, Terminus, Dress Down, stuff of that nature in my sideboard. I'm not going to try to play that game. I'm going to try to draw 7, make a whole bunch of monks, and hopefully combo off. So I'm not even going to try to, like, pretend like I can board a high enough removal density to, like, beat the initiative deck playing a control game, and instead I'm going to focus my sideboard elsewhere. Essentially, my sideboard cards are divided into 3 categories. I have the counter spells, which are absent from the deck in game 1, so that we have realistic play versus other combo decks. I have the graveyard hate, which a lot of times in a harder control deck isn't going to be Leyline of the Void, but in our combo deck here, where we're likely to draw 7 cards and refuel ourselves, Leyline seems totally reasonable. And then we have an additional threat package. There's going to be plenty of matchups where I want to board out Chalice of the Void, but these other cards aren't necessarily good, so I wanted some generic things that I could just kind of slot in for when that happens. 4 of these are for just additional mid-range threats, and 1 of these are for when I want to lean into the combo a little bit more. Generally speaking, the Displacer Kitten strategies haven't been very popular. They kind of had a brief moment in the sun around the time when they first came out, and after that, they disappeared a little bit, and we'll just kind of see how it feels today. With that being said, I think let's go ahead and hop into the league directly. If you're new here and you like what to see, there's a whole lot more. Consider subscribing or checking out some of the older videos. And if you're a regular, throw me a like before the video begins. That is the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Okay, this is a hand that can play probably a turn 1 Chalice of the Void, turn 2 Hullbreacher, probably. It's a little iffy as far as mana goes. I think this is still a keep. I don't play Chromox out on turn 1 here, so that I kind of have the option to play this as a land if I want to do that. And I also leave myself the option of like drawing a Teferi so I can just put the Mentor into play. There's some things that punish it, like an opposing Echo or something, but I think I'm comfortable starting like this and seeing where it goes. Oh, and I think I didn't explicitly say this. This exiles a permanent U control, so you can't just be blinking your opponent's stuff willy-nilly. Alright, my opponent has sat here for a while. I don't know what's going on. Okay, we finally got a land drop after 2 minutes. So, if this is Reanimator, I probably want to just Hullbreacher in this turn cycle. I'm going to go ahead and shock myself to play this. I think that's worth it. I think I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal as well so that I can play something around a Daze, if that's something that I have to do, and this is more akin to like an Esper deck of some kind. Alright, no end of turn fetch or anything. Okay, it is Grief. I will Hullbreacher in response to that. I want this card in play. Further shuts off like Faithless Looting and Grizzlebrand and such. Mentor going to my graveyard and then potentially being animate-deaded. Be a little bit annoying and a punish for not playing out Mentor immediately. Alright, my opponent is taking the Chrome Mox, which tells me that Exhume is something that they are planning on. Okay, yep. Ooh. Well, that's bad. They have created an Archon of Cruelty through... I think my opponent gets to draw their card, too. Fortunate. Goodbye, Displacer Kitten, I guess. Yeah, this is unfortunate. They made an Archon of Cruelty through my stuff here. So I can, like, play a Mentor, take 2, go to 8, play LED, make a Monk, and then die to this attack trigger. Sucks. I technically have an out that I can play towards, but it's incredibly unrealistic. I'm going to play out this LED so that my opponent can't take it with discard. I'll discard this Mentor. I'll go to 1. Echo can be my draw for turn. I can crack LED to play Echo, and then Echo into a Teferi, bouncing this out of play. I think that's about the only thing that I could do. Yeah, and I die if I cast this Teferi. So we'll go out like a trooper. Okay, playing against an opposing combo deck here. I would like my counterspells, and Leyline of the Void backed by a counterspell is pretty gross. If I do this, I need to board in like 10 cards, which is an absolute ton. I probably board out Chalice, oddly enough, so that I just keep my blue density high. Like, Chalice is replacing Leyline. Echo is another way to clear the graveyard as well. Or get rid of Mentors, because they're good for my opponent to reanimate if I shut off their graveyard with Leyline. I could buy that. That gets me the first 2 counter spells. And I mostly plan on, I don't know, maybe I'm too win condition light without that. Maybe I'm too win condition light if I board those out. I could probably just drop the Displacer Kitten comfortably. So many cuts. Probably go down 1 random piece of artifact mana without it being a big deal. And maybe this is a Grim situation rather than explicitly cut stuff. Or maybe I'm just boarding in too many cards. And like boarding in 8 is what I can realistically do. Do not have matchup experience with Azorious Kitten. This seems like a no to me. And also doesn't really do anything. So this hand is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, Maybe keep a secondary blue card. This is unexciting. Could also keep the land. Maybe I'm supposed to keep the land. Not happy about this. The dream of find leyline, back it up with a blue counterspell is dead. I also am just not working towards like a Grafdigger's Cage or anything, which is maybe something that should be in the deck for situations like this. This is tricky. I'm very low on resources. I get 1 Force of Will. If this is keeping my opponent from getting stuff into the graveyard in the first place, this is important, because otherwise I have to counter every single reanimation spell that comes after this. Whereas if I stop this card here and my opponent doesn't have another way of getting things into the graveyard, I have blanked some cards in their hand for a little while. So if my hand was stronger, I don't know that I need to punish. That I need to do that, but my hand isn't stronger, so we'll kind of accept that line. Although I don't know that I can just give my opponent a fresh 7 super safely, given just the way that their deck is constructed. Alright. Oh, no creature. That's very good for me. Oh, well this isn't. Okay, so they have Entomb into some other nonsense. Presume Grizzlebrand. I suspect that I am just dead to that. We don't really get to answer a Grizzlebrand once it's in play. I can draw an Otawara. Or I guess a Teferi. And maybe that's good enough. Unmask me. Let's unmask me. Played around that by playing out LED. Alright, I guess the good news is we're not immediately dead. There's not an immediate second creature. And I do, in theory, have some outs to this Grizzlebrand. A little tougher in practice. So I could just get something that produces mana. Play a Narset this turn. Use that to dig. But I'm not really sure if that's going to be better than anything else, because, like, I replace a card with Narset, then my opponent just, like, attacks the Narset, and then draws 7 afterwards, so it's not like that's really stopping my opponent. I think I'm going to lean into Urza Saga instead, and hope that I rip a whole bunch of artifacts off the top in a way that's meaningful. In this exact spot, I kind of wish that I had the Mox Opal that I boarded out. We'll grab a Lotus Petal instead. My board isn't that bad, but without a robust Urza Saga package here, with things like Aether Spellbomb in it or Pithing Needle in it, definitely kind of feeling the weakness of this deck list here. Now, kind of my hope is that my opponent isn't in the position to, like, draw 7, reanimate another creature, and stabilize the board. My hopes have been dashed to the ground. Oh, that's not bad. Admittedly, it can become bad very quickly. No creature? No creature. Here's the draw 7. I think if you're going to commit to the draw 7, you do it before the Faithless Looting. It allows you to bin a creature. And you've, like, looked at 7 more cards to find one. Okay. Pretty cool if my opponent killed themselves here. Okay, that's an Evoked Grief. Pitching a Reanimate, which is no good here. I lose Narset. Okay, we're gonna see an Entomb into a or some sort of animation card, probably on an Archon of Cruelty. And at this point, I think I'm just, well, no, I think I'm comfortable conceding at this point. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and they've got some really fun things in the works. In addition to being one of the premier decklist sites out there, they are also going to become a social media website as well. Now, this isn't going to replace Twitter, and this is still something that's in development. It's not finished, there's no timeline for when exactly this is going to be released, but at some point, you'll be able to use Moxfield as a place to talk about Magic the Gathering. This is a mock-up, and keep an eye on Moxfield. They're doing big things. Okay, so we got a Chalice into a Hullbreacher. That's probably good enough to make this into an opening hand. I would like to find an LED so that I can, like, successfully cast this Echo the way that I want. Alright, we're playing against a blue deck. Probably Delver. Delver confirmed. I don't actually think my hand's very good versus Delver, if I'm being honest. That's not bad. That I'm not a Shadow Spear deck. It doesn't help as much as I would actually like it to. Okay. So we're still going to play the Chalice of the Void, but this is like something I'm very much not excited about here. Just in terms of play patterns, when you're on the draw, yeah, and your opponent leads on something that might have 3 power on turn 2, like Ancient Tomb into Chalice is rough. Because like your opponent has the onboard thing already that might beat you. And like with Daze and Force of Will and such turned on, it's kind of a problem. That Unholy Heat means that my Hullbreacher isn't going to be live either. So I'm in trouble. Like, I in theory need to get to the point that I can Teferi bounce that threat out of play, but my opponent has chosen not to shuffle while missing a land drop here, which probably means that they found another counterspell to back their stuff up. So this turn is going to be play Hullbreacher, hopefully in response to a cantrip, so that Unholy Heat can't get it. And then I hope to Teferi bounce this out of play. Alright, now it's very unrealistic that I can actually catch a cantrip with a Hullbreacher. So I go to 12. So I guess I let that happen, because this isn't technically card draw. Okay, cool. Absolutely look at that card. Now, end of turn, I'll attempt the Hullbreacher, which in theory can take out that draw from Bauble and give me a treasure. Treasure is kind of a big deal here. Nice. The Chalice. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 total mana to work with this turn. I need to play one of my cards around Daze, not both. Kind of tricky, because I really think that my opponent has a Force of Will effect, because they didn't shuffle with that Ponder earlier. I think I need to play something that potentially baits the Force of Will, and just get got by Daze if my opponent has it. So this is my bait spell. Okay, I've got the correct read on the situation. My opponent has 1 unknown card in hand. Am I playing Tundra or Urza Saga here? I'm probably playing Urza Saga here. I commit that mana to that. I need to just Narset next turn. I don't know that, like, Urza Saga is going to race my opponent from 15 here. Yeah, I don't know that the Urza Saga races my opponent here. Let's attempt Teferi. Bounce that Delver out of play. There's a Chrome Mox. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can attempt a hardcast Echo next turn, and if Teferi is still on board, that's real good. My opponent can Unholy Heat away one of my permanents. Going with the Hullbreacher. This is unfortunate for me. I rather liked that card. Narset, Days Undoing. Plus Teferi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imprint Echo. I will have triple blue. Not bad. My life total is definitely in jeopardy, though. Chrome Mox. Imprint Echo. 1, 2, 3. Past Narset. How many do I look at? I look at 5. I think I'll just keep my loyalty high on this. Like, I could do it and play out a 0 drop, but I think I'm just good with this. Okay. This looks like a combo kill next turn. Alright, there's the expressive iteration. Is another Delver of Secrets. So that's a problem if those flip, right? Because I will take exactly lethal damage, and a past the turn line isn't super viable there. And now I die to either one of those being alive as of end of turn. So I'm gonna need to do this in a way that the fairy bounces my opponent's Delvers out of play. I can probably do that. I'll just take 0 drops here. So let's... I guess I can just plus this to fairy now. Still helps. I think I'm going to try to do this turn without tapping Ancient Tomb. I think my life points are super relevant. Let's tap everything except Tundra. Play Displacer Kitten. Cast a Lotus Petal. Blink Teferi. Let's always yield. Okay, cool. My opponent has just conceded to that. I'm thankful for that. That was going to take a while. But I think I had the gas to bounce both Delvers out of play and just get myself to a Monastery Mentor while also putting in Chalice. Okay, how do I want to approach this matchup? I don't think in any world I want counter spells. If my opponent is going to display, like, just concede to Displacer Kitten, I probably board in another one. I don't think my deck lines up very well against theirs. Like, I can board in ley lines to try and make Murktide Regent and Dragon Rage Channeler worse, but then I clunk up my deck a bit. I just kind of get worse at doing the thing. I think I just want to become a little bit more threat dense so that it's not the end of the world if I eat a counter spell. I think I'm going to board in these 3 cards. Maybe dropping a diamond. Maybe one of these. Maybe one. These are also graveyard hate, though, I guess, technically. Maybe one of these. One Narset or something that looks approximately like this. Alright, this isn't going to cut it. There's just not enough gas there. So throw one card back with this. I have Grummox, Imprint, some card, Urza Saga, Lotus Petal, 3 mana. It's Hullbreacher into Days Undoing, Hullbreacher and Mentor or something like that. This hand's a little bit sketchy. I think I'd keep it and throw back the Echo and kind of hope that it works out rather than going deeper than just this. The issue with going deeper here is that my opponent is going to have, like, Days, Force of Will, and Force of Negation to stop the first non-creature thing that I do. I don't feel particularly good about it. How on earth do I play out this hand? I think I always have to play this. So good for my opponent if they have the Soul Read and counter this Chromox. This is awkward. I think I put Mentor under it. Play out this Lotus Petal. I think I pass the turn with Hullbreacher up. And drawing any mana source allows me to play Mentor after my Hullbreacher inevitably gets removed. It's flipped to Expressive Iteration. Alright. I'm maybe supposed to cast the Hullbreacher in response to that so that my opponent doesn't get extra Surveil ability if they have a counterspell for my Hullbreacher. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright. Days has occurred. I have indeed played around the extra Surveil. I need a land off the top. Sort of unfortunate how much pressure my opponent has here. Like, it's very difficult to imagine a world where I win now. Yeah. I have no available plays here. I'm going to take between 3 and 9 damage in this turn cycle. I'm currently playing towards Urza Saga, getting LED to Echo, and just pray that everything goes well. But I think I lose to basically everything here. Like, I lose to Wasteland, I lose to a counterspell. Oh, yeah, that digs so deep. Oh, they put Force of Will into Graveyard there. That's not a good sign for me, right? Like, that means that they already just have something else. Flooded Strand hit Exile Zone. Okay, I'm only taking 5 this turn. That is, I guess, a boon, but okay. Let's float a mana. Pick up an LED. Go ahead and fetch. I think I'm just getting an island here. I just can't get wastelanded, assuming that something actually works here. I will play out a Mentor. And we attempt to do the thing. I do not expect that the thing is going to work. But hey, there's a chance, right? Both of those triggers resolved. What? Okay. I think I just want another monk right now. I'll just go ahead and imprint a Days Undoing here. And we're looking to finish this game either with the combo, although I think that's unlikely. I think I just take too much damage. Or by playing another Mentor and doing something cool with it afterwards. Alright, let's see how quickly my opponent can restock their graveyard. Wild to me that my opponent did not take that Force of Will off their expressive iteration. Like, if they got no blue cards in hand, like, that's about the only way that makes sense. Okay. Mentor's still alive. So you're telling me there's a chance. It is 9 damage. I will be dead to a lightning bolt. Alright, there's the land. It can happen. This is 9. I'm at 2. Am I dead? Sure seems like I'm dead. I am dead. GG's. Get one more chance. Do I want like another Narset or another Echo when I'm on the play? Unsure. I'll go ahead and submit as is. I can play a Chalice into a Mentor, but I don't really know that I'm on board for that. I'm just gonna like lose this land and have nothing to follow up the Mentor. This feels like a mulligan to me. So this would be probably pitch the Urza Saga. The Disappearing Land isn't that great right now. So pitch Urza Saga. Play Tundra, Chrome Mox on Displacer Kitten into Narset. Turn 2, Days Undoing turn 3. It's just like not great versus an onboard creature, but I don't know that I get to be pickier than this when I've already mulliganed once. Alternatively, I can keep the Urza Saga and just attempt to play out a fair Urza Saga hand. Is that better? It doesn't feel great. Less vulnerable to counterspells. More vulnerable to Wasteland. I think I'm on board with that. I play out the Chrome Mox prior to the Urza Saga, though. I have not felt super good about this deck thus far. And that's just kind of generally my opinion on these Days Undoing decks. Like, dedicated Days Undoing decks. Like, if you're playing a control deck that has, like, 1 or 2 Days Undoings as a finisher, like, I think that's reasonable. But these Days Undoing decks are just so bad versus a threat that is put on board. Okay. We can maybe work towards LED Echo. See an end of turn Brainstorm here. Kind of weird that my opponent would... Okay, yeah. Would keep a hand that would do just literal nothing in the first turn cycle. I do have to keep in mind that my opponent is probably playing 1 or 2 meltdowns that I might encounter at some point throughout this league. But yeah, without something like a Shadow Spear to fetch here, this just isn't that threatening. I'm gonna take my value out of it. I'm not sure whether or not I am supposed to Echo. Now am I getting lightning bolted? I guess this can be Unholy Heat. Nope. Do I get Mox Opal instead? Probably not. If I get Mox Opal, I can just cast Days Undoing this turn. And also just cast Days Undoing next turn and then make Echo the backup after that. So I am going to lean 1 card further into the Meltdown. Like, if they have it, they have it. But I think every point of damage matters. I don't think I want to go for the Echo here. It's possible it's correct. Like, my opponent's hand has seemed a little weak. Maybe I am supposed to go for it. Try to take a Meltdown type card out of their hand. Let's do it. Attempt Echo. Red Elemental Blast. Sure. So now I have 2 4/4s instead of 2 5/5s. There's a relevant difference. Alright, no Delver Flip. What are we looking at? Brotherhood's End. Sure. That's rough. It wasn't technically Meltdown. However, it was basically Meltdown. So my read on the hand was right. Like, I should have gone for something. Oh, another Red Elemental Blast is rough. I should have gone for something that attempted to shuffle their hand. It's possible it should have been Mox Opal. But then, like, my 6-drop card probably rots in my hand and probably doesn't do much anyway. I just kind of expect at this point that I've lost. We went relatively all in on an Urza Saga. And my opponent had the Artifact Sweeper. Yeah, okay, we're not beating that. My opponent has Red Elemental Blast, so something like a Teferi is not an out to this Murktide Regent. And with a land drop there, I just take 10 this turn, and then am effectively dead. GG's. Okay, opening hand is Chalice of the Void or Bust. I don't think I'm interested in this. I'm a little short on mana here, but this hand is pretty good if I can get another blue source. If that happens, I get to go Chalice into Hullbreacher into Days Undoing, and hopefully that's good enough to get me into something like a fucking mirror. Alright. Buckle up. Alright, a Teferi. That's not bad. I'm never going to cast that. Does playing a Chalice on 0 hurt my opponent more than it hurts me? Probably not. I think I am going to ignore Chalice here and just play out Lotus Petal and cast a Hullbreacher. I don't think I do it at instant speed here. I'll give my opponent one more look at a counterspell, but I think the element of surprise is important here in case they just attempt a Days Undoing naturally. Yeah, there's an Echo under there. Well, that's not good for me. I am now fully reliant on two things. Number one, I need to tap deck a blue source here. Number two, I need my opponent not to have a blue spell, and as a tertiary thing, I guess I also want my opponent not to have a Hullbreacher. Missed on my blue source, which probably means that I attack into an opposing Hullbreacher. I otherwise might not want to do that. Opponent says they are a big fan. Are you a big fan who's gonna murder my boy? No, you're not. Which is fantastic. So, do I Chalice on 0? I think I Chalice on 0? Alright, buckle up, folks. It's getting weird. I think my opponent is favored in this mirror, by the way. I think these additional blue soul lands are going to be very critical. I also have an Ancient Tomb for mana, and they don't as of right now, meaning that I'm going to deal more incidental damage to myself. They're also getting to activate their Urza Saga first. So there's a new depletion land. Opponent's just holding back their creature. I really don't need another Ancient Tomb right now. I do not want to attack into this token. I will be passing my turn here. I don't know how robust my opponent's Urza Saga package is going to be, but I think if they have mid-range cards and I don't, they're in a very good position. I'm just going to make this token now so I can just be lazy. I'm going to do it before the Urza Saga resolves anyway, to just see if Pithing Needle gets involved. Alright, there's the new token. And I think if my opponent has, like, a Shadow Spear, I'm dead. I think that counts. Like, I lose this Hullbreacher from play. I can't easily recast it. My opponent cracks in for 7. It'll be, like, 9 damage after I take into account my Urza Saga activation. Okay. Okay, no Urza Saga activation. The Pithing Needle was in hand. There's also a worst-case scenario where my opponent's 2 remaining cards are, like, LED and Echo. Am I in a position where I want to trade both of these for that? Probably not. Definitely not, actually. Okay. Ugh. Alright, float my mana. Do I want Mox Opal, play Mentor, and try to get cute after that? I think I'm game. But life's bad. Like, I'm forced onto the defensive here. I don't really have a ton of spells that I can vomit into play right now. If my opponent has a combo piece, they can just bounce my Hullbreacher out of play and then go off. And if they don't, they can just dominate combat with the Aether Spellbomb anyway. Okay, a new depletion land. Doesn't feel good. My opponent probably could have done some attacks there. I don't think it matters, because, like, that also is just going to win the game, because, like, the treasure tokens grow the Urza Saga Construct tokens as well. And with a land drop as my draw, so I'm not making any monks. I am comfortable conceding here. GG's. So, we're playing a mirror in which I feel like I have the worst mana and the worst ability to combo off. So that's not a great place to be. How do I want to deal with that? Probably by becoming more threat dense. I don't know about Displacer Kitten. Like, the Displacer Kitten, in theory, is a combo. No, that, like, Displacer Kitten combo is still going to be stopped by opposing Hullbreacher and Narset effects, because it's going to stop the draw. Okay, yeah, that probably goes out. I board in 2 lands. I can probably board out 1 other land. And then let's get 2 mentors in here. Yeah, go down some number of echoes, because they're just going to get shut off some portion of the time. I don't know that I want Force of Will effects. I kind of do. This attempts a turn 2 combo. This is fine. This is more all-in than I would like to be. I just don't know how, like, I am taking the approach of not trying to Force of Will. I don't know how what approach my opponent is going to take. The boarding plans probably look very different. Like, I have additional mentors to board in that they're not going to have. They're on 5 cards. Okay, my opponent tanked for a little while on their opener, and ultimately kept. I'm not 100% sure whether I'm supposed to lead on the Flooded Strand or the Ancient Tomb, or if my opponent just, like, does, like, a raw Echo. The Flooded Strand helps fix mana for cards like these. Okay. I get some respite here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull a Tundra out of my deck now. I do not want to draw that card. As of right now, I am planning on, air quotes, going for it this turn. That could change based on my draw, but I don't think it did. There's a Hullbreacher. It's a Force of Will pitching a Day's Undoing. I can still Echo this turn. It gives my opponent a lot of cards, but it's not like my hand does anything as of right now. That's resolving. Like, I can just Echo and play out a bunch of artifact mana, or I can keep this awkward hand that, like, maybe gets worse if my opponent just plays a Narset effect. Awkward. I think I'm gonna do this. I'm not a huge fan of this. Wow, that hand is not good. That was no free things to play out to take advantage of my mana there. Like, I have a better hand than what I started with, but this is very much not what I am looking to do. And I've reloaded my opponent here. City of Traders. It has 5 mana to work with as of right now. 6 is usually starting to be, like, the scary number, because that's like, okay, yep. That's where, like, Hullbreacher into Day's Undoing starts to happen. Echo, that's an Echo under there. Okay, there is a Narset. What my opponent finds. A Force of Negation, that is strong. Alright, there's a Day's Undoing, which doesn't literally end the game, but probably effectively ends the game. Guess I'll lead on this Chalice on 0 first. That's a successful bait spell. I don't think I need to fire off Hullbreacher immediately. Alright, something's happening. That is a weird time to activate that, because, like, now there's no takesy backsies on that activation. I'll fire off this in response before they look 5 or 4 deep for a Force of Will. My Hullbreacher is in play, which is nice. There's an LED. But my opponent has 9 cards in hand to my 0. This situation probably doesn't favor me. Okay, there's a Karn. I will probably just lose to that Karn in some capacity. Sure, that's fine. Yes. Uh-huh. Or if not the Karn, then the Urza Saga. I don't really see myself winning this game. I'll click on for a couple of turns, but I just don't think it's realistic here. Okay. With that, I think I'm comfortable conceding. Like, I can eat a Lattice this turn. I can just eat a couple of large construct tokens. I am far enough behind that I am fine conceding. GG's. Okay, round 4. I'll be keeping my hand. These hands where I've been leading on Chalice have not been going well, but it's not like this is supposed to be a mulligan. This is turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Hullbreacher, turn 3 Day's Undoing. Okay, so we're probably playing fair. Not the Biggest fan of that draw, but it is what it is. See if this resolves, or if it even matters if it does. Prismatic Ending is a thing that can just happen on my opponent's turn. It's like one of the big reasons why Chalice has fallen off so much. Oh, okay, well, it's sticking at least. Let's play a Tundra. I think Tundra here and pass. It's possible I'm supposed to play Ottawara because of Wasteland, though. Like, give my opponent a chance to Wasteland this instead of a Tundra. I will buy that. Then I've got Hullbreacher, which I can do in response to something like an Uro. It is a volcanic island. In the face of no pressure here, I could just play around a Daze and wait a turn on this Hullbreacher. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. Let's just do Tundra Pass. Then I have Hullbreacher end of turn into Narset, and maybe we can fire off two things at the same time. I think I respond to this before my opponent has a chance to put like a Force of Will in their hand with the Hullbreacher. Nice, nice. Because we still don't have confirmation of whether my opponent is playing Delver or a control deck. Okay, there's my confirmation. We are facing down a control deck. So let's rumble for 3 in combat. Opponent goes to 17. I think I just play Narset here and just play as safe as possible. If my opponent has something that removes this Hullbreacher in response to this, it's pretty catastrophic for me. So let's just go ahead and fetch. And I think I'll just grab a basic island here. Loop the Narset into play. See what we find. Echo. Fairy. I've got some options here. Now I'm probably safe to just like grab Teferi, like play LED, Chromox Teferi, and Daze Undoing. Since my Narset did resolve. Go ahead and attempt that. So imprint Teferi, play LED, and attempt Daze Undoing. Alright, good stuff. We kind of got a free one there against the control deck. And I think I'll do what I've been doing in planning on boarding in 4 additional threats. Let's maybe go Kitten out, maybe go Mox Diamond out, and maybe go down 1-ish of these effects. Maybe go down 1 Daze Undoing. Maybe I go down 1 of both, question mark. That gives me 4 additional threats without significantly changing the deck all that much. I also don't think it would be crazy to board Chalices out. Okay. This is a hand of magic cards. What do I do with it? I probably keep it, hope to draw any blue card so that I can play a Mentor on turn 2, and like at the same time I can play Mentor, Urza's Saga, Echo, LED if I draw any blue card. Or I guess, yeah, and any colored card in 2 draws, which should be totally fine and will happen almost every single time. Alright. Blooded Strand pass. Stay the course. I don't think I'm supposed to go for Urza Saga Chrome Mox because that line is just going to fold to Prismatic Ending. And I'll go ahead and fetch here. My Tundra. Do not want to draw a land. That's weird. Maybe I just give up the Echo Dream here. Now that I've drawn that. Okay, so let's play Urza Saga. I need to make sure this produces mana before I go in on my line. Play Chrome Mox. Imprint the Echo. Attempt Mentor. It's resolved, so I will get at least a monk out of it. Maybe just a monk. Just a monk, that's fine. So now I can play this Urza Saga thing, aim for a couple of turns, and then try to build up some cards in hand so that I can play a Mentor and vomit more tokens into play. Sure, that's fine. Okay. Blood Moon me, make me sad? Nope. Okay, cool. A Lotus Petal. I could be attacking into something like a Hullbreacher here, but if I'm just throwing away a monk token, I don't really think I care. Let's go take a little peek. See if anything happens in combat. It doesn't. I think this is just Flooded Strand and pass the turn. No moves from my opponent yet. Okay, not unexpected here. The Wandering Emperor went to exile. So my opponent could have something like a Dress Down. That could really mess with me. I'm not sure whether I want this to be a basic Plains or basic Island yet, so I don't think I'm going to mess around with it right now. Let's make something. Probably get an LED here. I think I play my Lotus Petal pre-combat for the prowess trigger on this. And then I think I go ahead and attack in now and see if it has any response from my opponent rather than playing out another card here. Like, I can go a little bit deeper and maybe get a few more points of damage in with prowess, but I don't really know that that's right. I'm also not sure if I'm supposed to play out this other stuff, so I think I'm not going to. My opponent still has a lot of cards in hand, and I have a lot of onboard power. I don't just want to, like, vomit Mentor onto the board, play Echo, have it get countered, and then eat a Supreme Verdict, and this game is just over. Sure, Brainstorm is fine. We're done? We're done? What did you keep? Like, that was just one source of Plowshares as interaction in this entire time. Oh, I mean, I'll take it, but I was really expecting to go 0-4 in this league. So we've got a W on the board. This is a hand that has lands and spells. I do nothing until turn 3. On turn 3, I play a Hullbreacher. On turn 4, I play a Days Undoing. Is that fine? It doesn't feel fine. Like, this feels so exceptionally slow. How many good draws does this hand have? So, 5 Soul Lands, 3 Chromox, that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Do I have Metalcraft with this hand? No. So I have 13 good draws while being on the draw. I don't know. Let's try keeping it. This is a perfectly reasonable hand versus control, and I'm probably not beating combo in game 1 anyway. There's an Opal. Am I supposed to play towards ripping an artifact off the top to activate Urza Saga immediately? Probably not, given my artifact density. I am, however, going to play out the artifacts so that I don't lose them to discard. And then I expect my opponents to just cast an Entomb, and I will be sad. Oh, shit, they didn't. Oh. Oh, okay, oh. Like an Echo. Correct too? Probably correct too. And I don't play a land first so that I can hit Ancient Tomb and Hullbreacher post Echo. Okay. Oh, this is scary. Echo. This is scary because if my opponent is just like Grixis control with an absolutely horrible hand, I'm super screwed here. Bayou. Okay. Uh-huh. I'm going to pass phases here, see if my opponent just randomly spikes ad nauseum. They did not. Hand's not great. I think I'll go with Chalice on 1 over Chalice on 0. We're probably playing against Ant, and like I still need my artifacts. Like I still need Metalcraft. Next turn, I can play a Narset. Burning Ant? Question mark. So the plan is Narset into Teferi. Or sorry, Narset into Days Undoing. Let's minus this. Chromox and LED. I can get to 2 mana this turn. That doesn't really do anything for me, so I will just go ahead and throw this onto the board. That will turn on Mox Opal for the future. Are we going to see end of turn Abrupt Decay? Nope. Not super expecting that in game 1, but it can happen. Alright, we are getting some movement from my opponent. Okay, yep. Burning Wish was expected once I saw Taiga. Pulverize. Throwing all artifacts is definitely decent. Oh, but opponent has to pass the turn here. Unfortunate. So, do I want to Narset now in an attempt to find another piece of artifact mana? Probably fine. A Chalice of the Void. I can put that on 0. and just cast Days Undoing. That's fine. Dallas on 0, and Days Undoing. This will give me a fresh 7, while reducing my opponent to a single 1, and Pulverize is now randomly shuffled into their deck, yeah. Oh, just absolutely fucking done with me. That's understandable. Yeah, cool. Okay, folks, that was a pretty rough league. We pulled together some wins in the last 2 rounds, which I'm happy about, but I don't know that I feel good about the deck list. So let's talk about why I don't feel good about the deck list. A couple of things here. Number 1, Ancient Tomb conceptually is not good at accelerating out cards that have 2 colored mana pips in them, especially if they are of different colors. So while Ancient Tomb is good at accelerating into Days Undoing and Hullbreacher, the Ancient Tombs are often not working very effectively in this deck list because of these issues with these cards. Number 2, some of my artifact mana is situational. So like in that last hand, for example, I drew a Mox Diamond without a land to go with it. And previous times, I think twice we ran into Box Opal not having the Metalcraft mana for it to serve as an accelerant. So the mana's a little rough, and kind of following that up, the Urza Saga is colorless, like so are these Ancient Tombs and City of Traders. So like you have, what is that, 7 colorless lands that don't work towards casting these cards, and you actually don't have that many white sources for the Teferis as far as the mana base goes. Like it's 3 Tundras, 1 Plains, 4 fetch land. And like that's not the worst, and it's probably fine considering like the other mana that's in the deck. But the deployment of the cards isn't smooth. Urza's Saga as a way to win via constructs doesn't seem super reliable here. Like against Delver, for example, we don't have the Shadow Spear to let us like make a couple of large bodies and then stabilize the board or regain the early life loss that we took from Ancient Tombs or Dragon Rage Channelers or whatever. So like the mana base isn't smooth since we're trying to play the white as well, and that means we're not playing what is it, Saperzan scary question mark on spelling and pronunciation there. We're not playing the blue depletion land that more smoothly accelerates into like turn 2 one of Hullbreacher or Narset, turn 3 the other one. The other issue here is that we can't interact with our opponent in very many ways. We have Teferi Bounce as the basic game 1 that we interact with our opponent, and I don't know if that degree of interaction is acceptable in Legacy right now. The initiative is absolutely everywhere, and though we didn't face it this league, that's like public enemy number 1 in my mind right now, and public enemy number 2 is Blue-Red Delver. And if you can't interact with the onboard creatures of the 2 best decks in the format, like that just feels like a scary place to be in. I liked the fair cards in the sideboard. I think it was probably incorrect to play Force of Negation. This is a deck that relies on a critical density of cards to do its thing. And so, like, in the Round versus Reanimator, where I was trying to, like, sideboard 10 cards, it was just really hard for me to do that without picking apart, like, my ability to execute a combo. I think if I were to play a blue-white version of this again, I would probably drop the Displacer Kitten stuff, and I wonder if just playing my own White Plume Adventurers is better than playing the Monastery Mentors. I don't think I ever made more than like 2 monk tokens with a mentor, so like I didn't live the dream of like mentor, draw 7, vomit, 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 vomit. And I wonder if it's just better to have like White Plume Adventurer, so I have another thing that I can turn 1 that can singularly spiral the game out of control. But if I'm doing that, why am I not just building a blue-white initiative deck, and why am I keeping all of this draw 7 stuff in here? So that's kind of where my head's at. This gets a thumbs down from me. I don't think the general strategy of trying to play draw 7s in Legacy is that good. because like executing your combo doesn't win the game, whereas with a lot of other decks like Entomb into Reanimate executes a combo that is usually going to win the game. Your draw 7 doesn't win the game. Your opponent has time to top deck out of it. It doesn't answer their onboard threats. So this overall strategy gets a thumbs down from me. This exact deck list gets a thumbs down from me, but I think it still has a lot of potential for improvement. I think you need a lot of time to iterate on this though, to figure out like what is the correct amount of interaction versus what is the correct mana base. There's plenty of work you can do if this archetype is interesting to you. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click the like button. It helps out a lot. I'm glad we got to at least kitten combo someone once, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!